Hi, it's Laurel Dietz of Alinea Legal Coaching. I'm here with Leona Harvey of Let's Talk Divorce Canada. Leona is a divorce coach. And now I know a lot of my clients have had either help from a divorce coach or have had questions about a divorce coach and using one and how that works going through the separation divorce process. So I thought it would be really great to have Leona here to tell us a little bit more about that. Hi, Leona.
Hi, Laurel. Nice to see you again.
Yes, good to see you too. So why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself, where you're working, and the clients that you serve?
Absolutely. So my name is Leona Harvey, and I founded a company called Let's Talk Divorce Canada. I am a divorce coach and a family law mediator, but we're definitely going to talk a lot about divorce coaching today because I think it's something that not a lot of people know about, and it would be really useful to, tell them how a divorce coach can kind of help them through their case. And I actually got into this. It was a change of career midlife, and it was after navigating my own divorce and navigating the system as a self-represented litigant who had originally started out with counsel that, made me, just want to help others more to navigate the system in, a more cost-effective manner.
Yeah, and that's why I like working with you, Leona, because you have firsthand experience of, everything that a client's going through, because you've done it, you've been there, you've actually stared down the judge in the courtroom, and you've dealt with all that business, dealt with other opposing lawyers. And so you really do appreciate kind of the stress that might put someone under, and you know how to work with lawyers, or you've had that experience, and you know how to present what it is to present cases to court. So I feel like you bring a lot to the table for your clients.
Thank you.
So I don't suppose it's any secret, but you're not in BC, but you do serve clients, I believe, across Canada. Is that?
I do, correct. So I'm based in the Greater Toronto area. So I'm in Ontario, but I would say the majority of my client base is definitely Ontario and British Columbia. Surprisingly, I do have the odd client in the US because, clients have to keep in mind, they always say, as a divorce coach, can you support me because you're in a different province? And one of the things that makes me very different as a divorce coach is I'm not giving legal advice, but I can provide clients with legal information. So with that being said, especially in Canada, the Divorce Act is federal. And, I can definitely help clients to, refer to information in different federal acts or refer them to information in different, provincial acts. But ultimately, at the end of the day, any legal advice is coming from counsel. What I do is very different from what counsel does. And it's a lot of, working on the nitty gritty of the case so that clients can be more organized, more effective, and can bring kind of a neat and tidy package to the table for counsel when they're working with them, which allows them to work with counsel more effectively, which at the end of the day really keeps their legal costs down.
Yeah, I think a lot of value that I see, like when a client comes to me, they're still very emotional. It's very hard for them to know what to say. And, I'm very capable of sitting down with a client, of figuring it out and walking through it. But, you're paying me, a lot of money to do that. It's not so much that they are incapable of presenting the information. It's just that there's that emotional stuff really gets in the way. And I think so working with a divorce coach is sometimes really helpful to kind of, like, as you say, get them organized, get into the nitty gritty details, and be like, okay, maybe have those early conversations to kind of say, okay, these are maybe I even identify goals, like this is really important to me. Okay, if that's important to you, you need to say that to your lawyer, right?
Yeah, and even just with where to start, what information to gather, like what to collect, like what does my counsel need? A lot of clients don't know where to start. And that's where working with a divorce coach, and excuse me, I'm just getting over a cold if my voice is a little scratchy. But a lot of clients just don't know where to start. And when they have these initial consults with counsel, because a divorce is so personal, it's not only the loss of a relationship, but there could be fears about, like, what happens with the children, what is co-parenting going to look like going forward? And in cases where there's any, domestic abuse or coercive control at play, there could be issues of like PTSD and so many other things on the table where the client just feels really lost and really overwhelmed. And that's where a divorce coach can really come in handy, because they can, like, what I do is I work with a lot of clients behind the scenes away from counsel to help them to gather themselves, to help them put their best self forward, to help them do those tasks in steps so that, you know, it doesn't seem overwhelming. They don't have that fear of running to the lawyer every 5 seconds when they have a basic administrative question, because although the legal services are incredible and the ones that you offer are incredible, sometimes if a client forgets something, they have that anxiety of, if I've forgotten something and I need to talk to Laurel for 5 minutes, I don't know if I can necessarily afford that, right?
Yeah.
Where I can say, hey, you know, I was on the call with Laurel. We discussed this. I took notes. Like, let's go through this and get everything organized that she needs so Laurel can do her job for you more effectively. And clients really like that, because I call it this kind of support triangle, where it's like you have the client at the top and you have legal counsel and divorce coach on either side. And it's a process that I really love, because I feel that when you utilize a divorce coach, but then you use legal counsel more effectively, it's like your support increases, but your overall cost of divorce goes down.
Yeah.
And I think that that's really important. And, you know, I've had, and you as a lawyer, I'm sure you've probably thought this at times. I've definitely had other lawyers question me saying, like, are divorce coaches, you know, taking away from our book of business? Are they taking away our clients? And my answer to that is no, not at all. We're actually allowing you to bring more clients through, clients that maybe wouldn't have otherwise been able to fully afford you, but could afford you by way of unbundled services. And so it's actually, I love it, because I think it makes our system more accessible to more people,
which is
more
very critical for us.
Which is very critical, because the reality is not every Canadian, and the majority of Canadians can't afford to see the process, especially if it's through the courts, from start to finish financially. It can be really financially exhausting on them, where if they're really using their legal counsel strategically, but they have a support in the background, like a divorce coach, you know, helping them to, you know, get their case together, helping them to get their exhibits together and presenting it to counsel in a neat and tidy package. It's the lawyers I work with say, it takes weight off their shoulders, because everything comes to them more organized and they can go through it faster. And for the client, they don't feel as rushed and under the gun to give me information at my reduced rate, because I'm not charging what a lawyer charges. They feel like they have that time to kind of, you know, navigate it, get their nerves down, collect themselves. And, you know, I work with clients on so many different things. It's not just like gathering the documentation for court, but it's also just, you know, putting their best self forward, managing their stress, managing their day-to-day. I also teach them like co-parenting techniques and how to engage in basic correspondence with you know, their former spouse if there's children involved and things like that. So it's like,
I want to touch on some of those things again, but before we do, I just want to go back to, you know, if lawyers are concerned, like, you know, I'm always advocating for our clients to have more support, more people in their court who can support them through this like really difficult time of your life, probably the hardest time of your life. The more support you can go to and different types of support, the better off you're going to be, and you will keep costs down. And then just as far as lawyers go, like, I mean, any family lawyer has this, you know, we're constantly dealing with people going through their most difficult times, and it can be really wearing on you as a lawyer. And there's always a bit of a panic when a client comes to you in a panic and you think, oh my God, I've got to solve this. And it's like, oh, hold on. It's like, this is like the legal issue here. The legal nugget that I can help with is actually very minor. It's what's surrounding is a whole lot of anxiety and a whole lot of fear and panic that, like, yes, I can work through that with you, but it's, you know, there might be someone who's better suited to it than me with my legal training. So we do really do our best to kind of like, at least with Alinea Legal Coaching, is like dig beneath the surface a bit and be like, okay, we don't need to just throw everything at the wall. Let's see what is actually strategically important. So, but back to what the kinds of services that you offer clients. So you offer, you know, you do assist, you said, with some drafting. And one that's really interesting is correspondence with their ex. Can you tell them a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I find a lot of times when people are first going through the separation and divorce process, they're not their best self, right? And I think we can see sometimes people at their worst when they're going through that. And sometimes what I see in cases where there's a little bit of a higher conflict is you might have one party threatening the other party and say, okay, well, if you don't give me the children 100% of the time, or if you don't do this, I'm going to take you to court and I'm going to win, and like you have no rights. I'll have a lot of those clients come to me just riddled with anxiety, and they'll go, oh my goodness, if I don't give in, if I don't give them everything, if I don't walk away from my assets, if I don't walk away from my home, like I'm going to lose. And so I'll take the time to like provide them with information, not legal advice, but provide them with information in the various act that applies to them. And I'll say, hey, here's a link. You know, you can educate yourself on not only your legal rights and your legal obligations, but it can help you to better understand it. So when you talk to your lawyer next, you can have an idea that, you know, just because that person said that doesn't mean it's true.
Yeah.
Right? Because there can be a lot of that negative banter back and forth.
There's a lot of that. And I know a lot of people, you get into a relationship. This person is the most important person in your life. And like for a long period of time, you start getting information from them about the world because you're busy on doing your part, right? Playing your role. And so you rely on them to do their role, and they are, and they provide you the information. You're used to relying on it and trusting it. And then it can be a real jarring change when suddenly you've separated and you cannot rely on that person providing you information anymore. They desperately want you to. But like you kind of have to say like, okay, that's very interesting. I think what I'll need to do is go and like essentially fact check and go to my trusted support right now. To see, you know, to fact check, make sure everything, like what is going on here. And even if maybe there's a tiny nugget of truth in what they're saying, is more often than not very cast in a very negative light and a little bit more far-fetched than need be. So
yes, exactly. And so it's just having that sort of voice of reason where they can come to and get the information that they need. Because a lot of times in these situations, information can really help to bring anxiety down.
Absolutely. So how is it that you work with your clients most? Like what method? Do you use phone, Zoom, in person, email?
Yeah, I do a lot of Zoom. I do a lot of phone and occasionally in person. So it's really interesting. I launched my practice during COVID. And everything was predominantly phone and Zoom based. But I think what that made me realize, and I think the courts probably realize this too, is that you can be pretty effective over Zoom. And from a coaching perspective, you can be really effective over phone. You know, I have some clients who they're just like, I'm having a bad day. I cried it out this morning. My face is red. Can we just do a call? Absolutely. We get just as much work done on that call, right? Zoom's really good if you ever need to go through documentation together, if they want to do a share screen with me, share with me some legal correspondence that they just got, or maybe some text messages that they received or things like that. And I can definitely like help them work through that. But every client is different in terms of what their needs are. I have, you know, some clients that are you know, overly organized and really on top of their file. And I have other clients who don't know where to start and really need my assistance. And that's where I do an initial consult to start to, you know, really get to know a little bit about the case and about the client and their personal circumstances. So I can sort of tailor my services to what they need, because not every client is the same. I say that every client is like their own unique snowflake, right? In terms of what they require from me. Like I said, I have some who are overly organized who just say, hey, you know, I've drafted my own affidavit. Could you give it a one over before I send it to my counsel? And then I have others who say, hey, can you do the drafting with me? Can you go through the exhibits with me? So I can send it in a neat and tidy package to my counsel for them to review and fine tune. So every client, like I said, is very different. And sometimes like they just need maybe,
and the needs are different. So
and the needs are different. And you know, I have clients who, some of them will come to me and say, hey, I have ADHD and I'm just really terrible when it comes to organization. Or they'll say, I have PTSD and I go into flight mode. So I get very overwhelmed when I receive legal correspondence. So I tailor my services to those clients, like especially my ones who are leading, you know, abusive situations and are feeling very anxiety ridden and do have some post-traumatic stress. You know, we'll have a system in place where the legal correspondence just comes straight to me. The lawyers just know, the lawyer will copy me and the client will text me and acknowledge they saw something come in, but just say, hey, I'm not in a position where I can read it today. And I will read it and go through the basics and just give them the Coles Notes version, and they never have to see it.
Yeah, because that correspondence, it can be really alarming. And often, like if it's from your own lawyer, they tend to be a little bit more kind. But if you have a lawyer, this is a little thing that lawyers tend to do, is they just forward you the letters from the other side. And if you don't know what to expect, you don't understand the strategies that lawyer is employing, and your lawyer's not holding your hand, like it can be devastating. And so I always had the practice of not forwarding correspondence, but I do understand the reason why lawyers do it is to kind of save time. They need some answers. They need a response. They don't know, what your position is on certain things. So I think that's an incredibly, for especially people who are struggling with, either PTSD or just like flight, freeze, whatever mode, avoidance even, then working with you could be really beneficial.
Yeah, and there are some times where, we'll get 3 or 4 pieces of correspondence, and me and their lawyer, by way of unbundled services, will correspond and say, you know what, it's really not necessary to respond right now, and we'll leave it be, but we'll take the anxiety off the client's place so that they can work on healing and becoming better themselves.
Yeah. And then it's from that place of healing that they can move forward in their life. And that's the main thing I see. Like if we were going to encapsulate kind of what you help your clients do, it's like, let's solve this divorce looking forward, instead of, as Angela would say, looking in the rear view mirror, which is just like draws you back into that conflict, into that negativity and that toxicity.
Yeah. And it's even just holding clients accountable too for, what did you do for yourself today? Did you get out for a walk today? Did you, journal today? Some clients I have loved to journal their feelings, or if they're feeling really angry towards their ex and they want to get something out, I'm like, get it out on paper versus actually emailing them, right? So we'll do like different, strategies and techniques for them to sort of manage their anxiety and stress. And I do it from a non-therapist perspective. I really just do it from a human perspective, and a former self-represented litigant who's had to navigate the court and knows what those moments are like. And I always say to my clients, if you kind of want to train almost like you're running a mini marathon, and you want to make sure that every single day you're doing something for yourself, because it's very similar to what they tell you on the plane. Put the mask on yourself first before you can help your child. You really need to make sure that you are in a good physical and mental space to take this on, especially if you're before the courts, because that can be really, really intimidating for someone who's never been through the courts before.
I always tell people, like, if you need the court is the best place to be. But if you don't need the courts, it is the worst place on earth. It's sort of the most stressful, adrenaline pumping, boring, tedious place you've ever been.
And not only that, but you're putting the decisions of your life and your livelihood in somebody else's hands.
It's awful.
So unless you truly need it, it shouldn't be a first resource. And
it's when the alternative is worse than putting your decisions and your life decisions in someone else's hands.
That's when 100%.
Anyway.
And one of the things too is, sorry, I was going to say, and you probably do this too, is I educate clients on what the actual court process looks like, because I've had clients who are very naive to what family court is, very naive to what a hearing is, and they think that they can go in for half an hour and get everything solved.
Yes.
And they don't realize that this can be ongoing.
That is a huge
hearings. It can be years, and they really have no idea of what the potential financial risk could be to entering the system. So a lot of what I do too is I educate my clients on the reality of the system, so that they can maybe make some more informed choices, or really explore alternative dispute resolution.
That's such a valuable service, because people, it's true. I would say, and I've spent my time doing duty counsel and being in the halls of provincial court and Supreme Court, and just sort of realizing people are shocked when they realize that I can't just walk into the courthouse and talk to a judge and get what I want.
Yes, it does not work that way. It can be a very lengthy and drawn out process, as we all know. So but this is a really good chat.
Yes, thanks so much, Leona. You are really a great addition to kind of this unbundled legal coaching, self-represented world, and I'm so happy that I can refer you to clients. And if anyone's watching this and you're interested in getting in touch with Leona to help with your own case, how can they get a hold of you?
They can get hold of me. I have an Instagram account, and my Instagram account is Let's Talk Divorce Canada. I also have a website, which is www.letstalkdivorcecanada.com. It is currently under construction, but if you do go onto the website, it will give you a link to my direct email.
That's awesome. Thanks so much, Leona. And
thank you.
we may invite you back on. If anybody has any questions or comments for Leona, just either message us directly or leave a comment on this video. If you're enjoying this content, please hit subscribe, hit like, and hit that notification button so that you are notified when we post more videos. All right. Thanks so much. Take care.